You heard it from the judge. Nouman Raja sentenced to 25 years behind bars. We were just listening to for the last hour or so to his sentencing hearing. We heard victim impact statements as well as many members of his family. You can see the live shot right now inside the courtroom as Nouman Raja is being escorted by deputies, presumably back to the local jail, where he will then be transitioned to a state penitentiary to serve his 25 years behind bars. I want to bring in my panel right now. Mike Corbanics, Linda Kenny-Bodden are with me. And I also have Alan Turkheimer on the phone with me from Chicago, a great panel right here. First of all, I'll start with you, Linda, your reaction to the sentence.
This judge was not playing around. I mean, obviously he heard all the evidence, and like his own police department, like Raja's own police department, they didn't believe him. They think that he put him on a wild goose chase, that he lied to them, and then he lied to the court, and it was all over.
Okay, I just want to give a little bit more information. Originally, the manslaughter count was punishable by up to 30 years in prison. The attempted murder count for the bullets that missed Jones, punishable of 25 years to life. So in the scheme of things, 25 years is a pretty hefty sentence, Mike.
Well, 25 years is a real sentence. I mean, you heard the judge say day for day. And even when he said it, even sitting here, it sort of goes through you a little bit when you realize 25 years. I mean, that's a long time. It doesn't seem it when you talk about it, but to realize you're going to be doing that much time, that's substantial. That's half a life.
Well, and you know, he knew the seriousness of what he was facing because we saw his reaction. I believe this is still a live shot inside the courtroom. We saw his reaction as his wife was giving her statement before the judge. And at times he was crying or his head was down. This is very emotional, Alan Turkheimer.
Yeah, this is the conclusion of what was a very emotional case. All the parties involved, and now there's going to be some resolution. You can see the family members consoling each other, and I think they're going to feel some sense of relief as well.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we were just showing some photos of Corey Jones, the stranded motorist. You just saw some photos a few seconds ago, I should say, because that's really what this case is about. And sometimes, you know, when we sit through these sentencings, we're so focused on the defendant, we forget about the person who lost their life there, Mike.
You know, it's funny as I'm watching his picture, 25 years seems like a lot, but when you look at it in comparison to the life he lost, it really, I think the judge might have given him, since he could have given him up to life, quite a benefit for this police officer in this shooting. But it's a tough sentence either way.
Well, and you know, I have to say, Linda, even when I was watching the wife testify, I kind of felt bad for her, and I saw Nouman behind her, and I saw the anguish she was feeling. And we talked about this earlier off camera about how this was just a 5-second split-second decision of poor decision-making.
That he made a decision and then he followed through with it. And 1/10 of a second can change somebody's life. But what gets me in all these cases is like the orange and red version. There's victims here, there's victims over here who lost their life, and then he calls victims with his family and his children by what he did. And there's the family over here, so you always have victims on both sides. And it'll be interesting to see how they can recover and lead their own lives going forward, one with the loss of a loved one here and one with a loved one in prison.
Okay, so I was just talking about, and you saw some video of her there, Nouman Raja's wife. She was one of the last to address the judge before Nouman Raja was sentenced. We have turned around some of that sound, and we have it for you now. You hear the wife of Nouman Raja there talking about what the loss of her husband will mean to her family, because this is a loss for her too and her family. Now her husband and the father of her children is going to be in prison for a very long time.
I was thinking as she was speaking about, you know, I had a judge once tell me in a sentencing about a client. He goes, and he said that it was just the most difficult part of his job is that you could have somebody who lives a life 95% right, and then that 1-5% of a mistake, or, you know, I mean, we're talking about a murder here, so I'm not trying to de-emphasize that. I think just by the discussion we're having here, we can appreciate what a judge goes through when he has to sentence someone to a crime like this, which is just so unfortunate.
And Alan, also what jurors have to go through too, when they're looking at somebody that perhaps is an upstanding citizen that hasn't done anything wrong in their life, that is a law enforcement officer and makes a split-second wrong decision, like in this case.
Right, but jurors also realize that that's what officers are trained to do. They hold them to a different standard. Yes, but just a second, but they're supposed to use judgment, they're supposed to show restraint, and so even though it was just a second, jurors were able to look past that. And it's interesting that what you just showed, I don't think wife did a favor. And
Yeah, Alan, for some reason you keep cutting off, so we're not hearing everything that you're able to say there. But just overall, Linda, are you surprised by the sentence the judge handed down here?
No, I'm not, because what got everybody in this case is that he clearly made up the, I'm in trouble version after Corey Jones was already dead.
Right.
And that is a problem. Sometimes it's not the crime that gets people, as we know. It is the cover up on it. And I think that's what got everybody here.
Well, of course, because he wasn't aware when he first talked to police that there was a recording that existed.
That's right, and it was not by the police at that time. He was calling. Remember, Corey Jones was calling in for help at the call center on his car.
All right, the AT&T call center.
And they recorded what was going on, and no one knew about it. Had that not been there, this police officer may have gotten away with this murder.
Yeah, and in fact, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we can play some of that call, which many experts believe is what led to the conviction in this case. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. So we were just listening to the call that was made right after as it was really going on. Right. We're hearing the whole thing.
Had called for help, right?
Yes.
Right.
So why did you think that really played into why?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rich. I'm so excited about this in terms of whenever you see anything in court, in live court, it gets me crazy. Because Nouman Raja did not know Corey Jones had made this court and everything was being recorded. So after, when he said, I went up to him and said, what's wrong? How, anything I could help you with? How you doing? It turns out that was not the truth. He just said, get your, we can't repeat that here because we are, again, not the pornography channel. But I think the jurors realized that, the judge realized that, and that puts a stain on all cops, and it shouldn't.
And I did misspeak. I said it was Nouman Raja, but it was Corey Jones, the victim, the stranded motorist who had called for roadside assistance. Of course, he was having a problem with his vehicle, and that's what perpetuated this whole incident when Nouman Raja approached him. As I mentioned, we've been in court this afternoon in Palm Beach County, Florida, where we were listening to the sentencing hearing of that former law enforcement officer, Nouman Raja. And during the sentencing hearing, the victim's aunt, Sheila Banks, she addressed the court. It's always so difficult hearing from family members of the victim. I do have a question for you, Alan Turkheimer, who joins us via Skype. When you're going into these sentencing hearings, I know for the most part, the judge has an idea of what the sentence is going to be anyway. Do you really think these impact statements make a difference?
I think they do. I think they move the needle a little bit. I think some of it's predetermined, but judges are jurors in robes. That's been said before, so they're susceptible to emotion. And Corey Jones' aunt, he gave a very emotional plea about him and what it was like. And Raj's wife, on the other hand, is a little defiant. But I do think these statements make a difference. So overall, they probably are within a set period that the judge.
Alan, for some reason today, usually we have a great connection with you, but for some reason today, we're having trouble with your connection. So we did hear much of what you said, but did not hear you towards the end there. But I do want to ask to my panel here in New York City, to Mike, that same question. Have you seen victim impact statements like this sway a judge, perhaps even to lay a harsher sentence on a defendant?
Yeah, I think it does, because, it's just when you read something on a piece of paper, you just really don't, at least I don't. You don't get the focus, you don't get the feeling. I mean, that was very emotional. I mean, and when she was speaking about how he was alone, no one to hold his hand, by himself, sort of like a bully personified, it made you feel like, almost like this police officer was laying in wait and waited, so he was so isolated that he had like almost backed into a corner. That was the image I was getting.
And Linda, you think so too, that it can sway a judge?
Yeah, I think what it does, it cements the judge in a sentence that they already think. When you see that it's going to sway a judge, is usually when they say, we're going to take a 5-minute or 10-minute break before I give my sentence. That's normally when there's a sway, and they have to go back in and reformulate what they're going to do. But I think generally it cements and makes them feel good about the decision they've already made.
Well, excellent. Linda, Mike, you've been a great panel with us today, this afternoon. I am going to be signing off. Aaron Keller will be back with the Daily Debrief in just minutes. A lot going on he has to go over, so definitely stick around for that. Stay with us.